Hey folks, welcome back to Trend Talks AI. This is Shannon Murphy tuning in. Of course, this is your quick hit guide on everything artificial intelligence, agentic, generative, LLM, and ultimately how it's influencing how we secure and what we secure and all of that good stuff. So today we're going to be talking about not really new concept, but definitely newer on the scene inside of this AI space. And I'm super glad to be joined by Josiah Hagen today. He's senior staff engineer in Trends AI Innovation Lab. And definitely the guy that we want to be talking to when it comes to these types of emerging architectures, emerging protocols, and just get a really solid handle on it. Make sure that we're feeling really confident when we're starting to approach these types of things and think about the risk to the enterprise. So, Josiah, thank you so much for coming on the show. And maybe just for those tuning in for the third time or for the first time, maybe just give a little bit of background on who you are.
Howdy, Shannon. Thanks for having me today. My name's Josiah. I'm a researcher in Trends AI Lab, looking especially at new technologies in AI and how we apply them to security. And not just how we're applying them to security, but also how attackers may apply them and what it is we need to do to defend our new systems, new architectures, new technologies. So I like working at the edge of technology and at the edge of threats. And AI is finally here, and it's all very exciting.
Sure is. Hey, on top of that too, though, you've certainly been spending some time, traveling around the world, talking to different leaders, doing some, almost like AI diplomacy is what I'm referring to it as, but ultimately not just working in the security space, but the broader AI ecosystem as well, being kind of a partner in that space to AI builders. So could you just give us a little bit more on what that experience has been like and what those types of projects and relationships are building toward?
Sure. Trend is a partner with a number of organizations, including the Paris Peace Forum, which seeks to reinvent diplomacy. And they bring together a lot of folks in multi-stakeholder fora around cybersecurity and AI adoption efforts. And so it's been interesting to inform policymakers, also in the room with, AI experts and other threat experts, to inform them what it really looks like on the ground in terms of attacks that are happening, technology that we can effectively use, in order to stop that, and where the challenges are. And then also, I've been participating in standards groups like the Coalition for Secure AI. I lead a work stream there on preparing defenders for a changing threat landscape with AI, and trying to develop norms along with the rest of industry that we can agree are the best way to secure our new infrastructure.
Awesome. Well, on that topic of securing infrastructure, for sure, there was no better place to be than in San Francisco a couple weeks ago for the RSA conference 2025. For me, one of my favorite shows in the industry. I love that it's really focused on the technology. And the innovation space and kind of the product space, but of course other shows are a little bit more focused on user and on tools and processes and that type of thing. So it's really nice to have good balance. But of course, RSA, I feel like that's where all of the big announcements that really set the tone for the next, or at least for the rest of the year coming out. So I wasn't able to be there. I know that you were there in the Bay Area. So what were some of the kind of top trends that you saw coming out of San Francisco the other week?
So, the expo was it's overwhelming. There are so many vendors, each with their pitch out there, but you kind of get a sample of what the big themes are. There was a lot of emphasis on proactive security and risk management, risk scoring.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
kind of a marked change, I would say, from previous years, where it's definitely really, XDR heavy, really kind of protection layer heavy, kind of those point solutions or startup ecosystem. So that's an interesting shift to me, for me to see at least in that expo floor.
yep, and along those lines, data security, including tools for governance, and bill of materials for data and for code, identity security. They're all kind of part of your security supply chain, really, and I think still part of that shifting left kind of trend that we see in a move towards more proactive security. So I think that's kind of an industry-wide effort, and it's putting, as you said, less emphasis on the detection and response, which it's going to get a whole new workforce here. Then on the sort of governance related activities that involve visibility into everything.
And, just because I think it might become relevant later in the conversation, we talk about large language model, we talk about small, medium, LLM, small language model, all of these different models come in different shapes and sizes with different purposes. From your perspective, what is the point of that? Like, what is the point of having a smaller model? What's the added benefit that you could get from that? Of course, different sizes have different benefits and
Performance
different
characteristics. Yeah.
shortfalls. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the ones that are in the like 1 to 10 billion parameter size are kind of small.
Mhm.
And because they're kind of small, they have low latency and low cost, low power consumption. And you typically can get high constrained task performance for particular sort of task or set of tasks, relatively smaller body of knowledge, something that a L1, L2 SOC analyst would be trained to do.
Hmm.
You can get
So
into
kind of
these
putting
smaller.
some guardrails around what that model is able to do in order to get kind of higher task efficacy, essentially.
Yeah, you essentially are focusing its parameters on a certain body of knowledge to be very good at that.
Hmm.
And then you can distill what you need into a smaller package. Now,
So just
you
like
want
in
to
a,
go.
human workforce, kind of, that generalist specialist kind of workforce situation happening here as well.
That's right. And you may not need something that can handle all of the human skills. Things like conversation may not be important for some task-based applications. But when you get into planning, you need to get more sophisticated models that can hold larger patterns within their sort of memory
Right.
to draw from, and then come up with courses of action for a number of maybe smaller task oriented AIs to do. So there was definitely a lot of conversation about different agentic capabilities, and different parts of the workforce that can be automated away with
Mhm.
AI.
Right. Yeah, stir the pot. And then I guess on that topic, AI is everywhere. All these vendors are coming out with their agentic push. There's lots of news coming out. I feel like the editors and journalists at RSA must have been just absolutely swimming in press releases. So I guess on that topic, when you do have all of these agents, you do have all of these goals and tasks. There's this new protocol, right, or newish protocol that's emerging in order to improve those processes and improve the output, which of course model context protocol. So did you see this coming up at the show? Was this a topic of interest? How's the industry feeling? What's the chatter on MCP?
I would say it was definitely a topic in conversations and receptions, especially with people who are kind of part of the standards development community across industry.
Mhm.
It's MCP is the Model Context Protocol released by Anthropic.
Yep.
Uh, I guess early last year, they released a set of articles around contextualized RAG, retrieval augmented generation, with additional contextualization to provide clues to the large language model, how to better perform with the data. And this sort of follows in the same, I guess, school of thought from Anthropic, which is if we provide the correct context, then there's a lot that the LLM can figure out from our sort of regularized summarization of the information contained in there. So
Right.
MCP has been skyrocketing in adoption. Like it's got some of the highest adoption rates of any software package on GitHub. And it's interesting because it really solves a connect the AI to the tools and data as quickly as possible problem. It eases friction that earlier tool sets had, like LangChain, LangGraph, and others, where you could build, great AI applications to connect to things like web search or external databases, or again, RAG, retrieval augmented generation, usually with
Mhm.
vector databases. But MCP sort of makes an ecosystem of tools and data services available for agents to use somewhat universally.
So would we say that at first, I start digging into MCP, LangChain, these types of things, and I think, well, what's the difference from RAG, right? And would we say that MCP is kind of next evolution, next, protocol, or next step that's building on top of what we are trying to get from the RAG process?
Yeah, I think in computer science, we often say you can solve any problem with another layer of abstraction. And this
Yeah.
is kind of the the answer to how is it that we connect to our tools and data. And it's like tools as a service. So it's still a client server architecture where you've got a host application that needs to go, and the host application uses its AI to use these external tools and services, whether it's web search or database or something like that. But the host also has a client that knows how to talk to each of the different servers. And so it really smooths out, it really smooths out the sort of plug-in architecture and the ability to extend what it is that you can talk to.
Cool. Yeah, so then I think for MCP, I think that there's kind of like three key parts, right? And these parts keep coming up over and over in this space, but data, metadata, structured data, having, yeah, standards around how we're managing that data, getting more context available to the agents so that they can make better decisions, and then having kind of that current memory, that up-to-date memory. From your perspective, are these kind of the building blocks for the protocol, data, context, memory, or is there something missing in that list?
I would say less than memory with MCP. It's more, um, it it provides sort of an auto discoverable service for tool use, which makes it easy if I need to say I want something that only talks to Wikipedia because I view it as a data authority that has
Mhm.
quality data. Then I can easily build an application that connects to an MCP server that does just that, that offers a tool with that capability. And so it really smooths a huge amount of integration. Memory is still in large part up to the host builder, the person who's building this AI powered application. So it provides this interoperability between uh, AI services and data and tool services, which
Right.
is really, we're going to get so much more out of AI by using it along with our data rather than just answering it questions as an oracle without our data.
Right, right. Yeah, of course. So then now kind of moving forward, looking forward, we've been spending a lot of time, in chatbots, right? I still think that this is probably number one use case for the vast majority of people today. But of course, we want to get way more out of this when we are looking at agentic workflows and multi-agent scenarios. How is MCP going to smooth this process over from your perspective? Um, by kind of like being that translator, being that kind of central knowledge hub for the agents to collaborate on.
It'll be like giving the agents access to all of the manuals they need. You could think about it as connecting them to all of the encyclopedias and all of the manuals for how to do all of the things. When we get into this human interaction with AI agents modality, we're not going to need to know how. to solve the problem. We're going to need to understand what the problem is and whether it's been solved or not. And we're going to give the agents the capabilities to solve that problem. To do that, they need tools. And a lot of that tooling is really in the how-to variety. So if their tools explain to them how to do these things, including how to code, what other coding examples, these are part of your tool repository too, your data library. It really uplifts kind of the whole agent ecosystem to provide this as like, hey, now we have services that give you all of these additional how-to capabilities.
I'm like, my mind is like already churning on what the potential risk is there because it sounds incredible and like the outcomes sound, it sounds like really, really incredible to be able to give that that agency, I guess, so to speak, or like that access. But already in my mind, I'm thinking of, oh God, like what are we gonna run into? But I before we get there, I kind of wanted to cover a couple other things first. Um, and maybe digging into actually maybe what some of those benefits are by giving them all of those how to manuals. So for example, we talked about efficacy and relevancy in this type of thing, maybe even in within like the cybersecurity context. For analysts, for example, like this is opening up, I would imagine, a whole world of hyper automation and outsourcing a lot of tasks um, by leveraging this type of protocol.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to be realistic with the state of technology and expect it to change rapidly.
Yeah,
I think if you look at kind of studies of the uplift provided, it could take a cutting edge researcher now 30% of the time it used to take them to write their next research paper with an agentic AI assistant that's able to go and gather related data, analyze, summarize, include, and help with writing and critiquing. And
right. And I think that's
that's
the
a
difference. Yeah, like that's the difference from like sort of first generation, generative AI, where I would probably still be doing the majority of that research on my own and then outsourcing the writing of that research report, or like I don't want to actually author it, but I've done all of the upfront research. What you're saying is this is actually a legitimate research assistant in that it's almost like shift left for research,
Yep.
getting like more support in the early stages.
Yep, and really throughout the process, I would say. And I
Mhm.
think that it's easy to take something quantifiable like that and translate it to alert triage, right? It's not a dissimilar set of capabilities that you use in terms of the summarization and checking related facts. A number of the pivoting things that you might do in threat hunting are also uh, fairly automatable in a lot of ways to prune uninteresting or impossible things that often occupy a lot of human time. So, I
Yeah.
think that we should see benefit from agentic AI in security in this year in the way that it cuts down on the analysis of the data we're already generating.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that there's probably just a ton to look forward to in that sense. And yeah, to your point, like again, Gen 1 looking at things like, I don't know how to write in this search query, so I'll just, do translation, and then actually going from that first generation to something, a little bit more next gen or a little bit more current, where you're actually using this assistant throughout that entire threat hunting process. Even, prompting, proactively prompting an analyst to start looking for something based off of data that the agent is seeing, or potentially that agent just carrying that entire task out for them. So
Yep.
I think this is really cool.
And then you can take it also, I think, to the red team side where it's much easier to automate your red teaming to discover, the ways that you can be attacked and to actually have more simulation about attacks on your own environment that you're able to then again shift left close proactively before a real attacker comes for you. So I think that uh, really the automated triage and then I think also automated red teaming are going to be huge for security over this next year.
So we know that MCP is not the only game in town. There's some other protocols that are quite interesting as well. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit more on things like agent to agent, for example, or other protocols, sort of within this Venn diagram, I guess, of protocols where we're looking to get better efficiency, better goal alignment, better task outcomes.
Yeah, so again, MCP provides a piece of the puzzle that's uh, enabling connection to tools and data for agents in a regular fashion. A to A, the agent to agent, is a sort of cloud-based network communication protocol developed by Google to specify how two agents talk to each other. So it's a different
Is it
slice
just
of the
two
pie.
agents, or is it still multi-agent, or is it only two?
It's it can there can be broadcast too, but
Okay.
it is really around interagent communications, which from one to another, it could be to many.
Okay.
But it really is about the um, you know how the content of that communication should look again to provide the agents the information they need to carry out tasks in this way. Like, hey, agent buddy over there, I need you to complete this task, or all
Yeah.
of you agents go and complete this task. And this is where we're really starting to enable the multi-agent ecosystem, where we're getting to this agentic mesh of within and between organizations. We'll have interagent negotiation to accomplish tasks. From your either small, cheap, highly task specific, large language model enabled agents to your maybe more flexible or your planning capable ones. And then, besides A to A, there's also this kind of group of other protocols being developed under this, I think, agency framework, which is spelled funny, but it includes an agent command protocol, um, agent gateway protocol. The command protocol is like really for local AI compute environments to be able to have self-discovery and sort of automated interaction within a single, let's say, a single local environment, although that local may be some cloud. The agent gateway protocol really specifies how it is that they can communicate out to other services, and then there are other related standards in this bundle that are really looking for the whole internet of agents that are
Yeah.
coming for us, which I think
IOAI. Yeah.
I don't know what we call it yet, but
Yeah.
I don't think that these have seen near the I know they haven't seen near the adoption that MCP has,
Yeah.
because we're not really at that point yet. We're still
This was
connecting our AI systems up with our tools and data and not to other AI systems. But that's coming next year.
Yeah. This was my question too, right? Like how much of this is kind of theoretical slash research versus how much of this is being implemented. For example, like I saw earlier this month at their big corporate event, ServiceNow announced like a AI fabric kind of meshy thing and AI command center, watchtower, something like that, where they're looking at governance and they're looking at protocols. So I think that that's a really cool, probably like early leading, implementation of that, but really kind of on the whole, how much of this do you think is early days research, kind of theoretical versus what's actually going on in the world right now in the enterprise?
I think it's all changing very quickly, and
Mhm.
so it depends on when you publish this video. Um,
Let's
I
say
think that
maybe for our listeners out there, today is May 14th. Probably hope to publish within the next week or so. Yeah.
Um, MCP is
That was really
solving
meta, Josiah.
um, MCP is solving a problem that we have right now. I think that a lot of
Yeah,
these other frameworks are used and useful in research contexts right now. I think that
yeah,
we're still aiming for reproducibility and quality and hopefully security in our agentic solutions that we still haven't made it entirely reproducible, right?
right.
Um,
And I Yeah, and I think security is probably definitely on that list in terms of what's, limiting the implementation right now. I think for sure you and I have talked a lot about data and how, data is the gold and data is so critical to all of this actually working. And, poor data governance, data silos, can certainly be a hindrance to realizing the benefits from all of this really cool innovation. Of course, other things like legacy deployment, kind of poor identity management, lack of identity management, lack of inventory, of course, just skills gap, knowledge gap, these types of things, not having the staff who can actually support it. But security is certainly on that list as well. So my mind was churning, earlier in the conversation when you were going over sort of the processes, how it works. But from your perspective, where does the true risk lie? Of course, we want to adopt MCP. We want the benefits that come from this interagent communication, getting access to more relevant context. But what should security teams be looking out for as forward-looking enterprise looks to start implementing these types of protocols?
yeah, so the security is really incumbent on the user for this. So user beware. Um,
Right. On the end
the
user, you mean?
uh,
Like the
yeah, so I can use MCP within my host application, and I can determine how it's going to reach out to servers to accomplish tasks. If I keep it within
Mhm.
my enterprise, then I've certainly got a much better handle on what's going to be used. And so MCP
Right.
for enterprise, totally useful. Like I can,
Internal
I
use
can,
case, you mean?
yeah, internal use
Yeah.
case and easier certainly to secure than
Yeah.
connecting to external tools, right? So, you have to have trust in the server that's providing you this data or tools in the MCP environment. And there are a bunch of open servers that offer their services for people to use. Do you even know if that's legit and isn't just going to try to attack you or send you something malicious right off the bat?
And then
Even if
how,
it even if it is
like,
legit, like, go ahead.
yeah, I guess my question was like, how do you establish that trust then?
You have some sort of signing to establish the identity of the service you're talking to, which doesn't really exist within
Right.
MCP. And then you have some reputation around that identity that you build through use, much like we do through other web use. Um, and even if you control or know that the server is legit and trusted, you still need to understand whether the tool use is safe. Because if you want to search the web for things and you end up downloading malware
Yeah.
because that's part of what your web search turns up, then your tool may not be safe as well.
Right.
Um, if you're using data, you need to know that the data is safe as well. What's the provenance of the data? Is the data actually intended to attack your AI system with some indirect prompt injection that's contained in the data to override the LLM's instructions? And has the data been sanitized? Has it been poisoned? Is somebody else in
Yeah.
control of the data stream for this data to assure that you're actually getting the goal that you're after, as you
So
mentioned?
so definitely like establishing trust in like each of those different asset categories, I guess.
Yeah, depending on what the server is offering and figuring out how to communicate that information as part of MCP, I think will be an evolution of the protocol. Like, how has this data been signed? I think will be part of how things move forward. I think there's also challenges with message trust.
Yeah,
Um, is the message itself safe? Has it been constructed to again attack my system, or is it even an authentic message? I think with the long sort of open sessions with MCP,
right.
there's a real risk of session hijacking or
Or proxy
man-in-the-middle
attack.
attacks. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So having trust in the messages as well is important, and having some controls around what your good messages look like, so that you know when you're getting bad ones. And then finally, you've got to make sure that your host LLM application is safe itself. If you've got MCP clients that are made to talk to specific servers, and
hmm,
these are open source software, what's your governance around that? Is your open source software free of vulnerabilities or backdoors? And the same thing too for model selection. Like you can even theorize that there will be models that are poisoned to especially be have their key bad features unlocked with particular MCP uh, server client implementations or data that tickles them. So, again, that's really just theoretical at this point. But again, it's about securing the supply chain from on both sides when you're building the host LLM application, and then when you're provisioning MCP servers and clients. I think that we will get
right.
to, we have trusted software now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not always the case that we
Brand
get there right
new.
away.
Yeah, yeah. So then I guess like so knowing that, we have trusted software today, this is not the first time that we've had to go through this trust-based process. This is not the first time that we've had to address things like long sessions, open sessions. So what are some of the existing best practices that we could take from our, existing security processes and actually apply to this kind of newer protocol, this newer, asset that we need to be protecting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the least privilege access is really
Yeah.
a key
Taking
one in
that zero
segmentation.
trusty
Yeah,
approach, right? I feel like that keeps coming up over and over again, every single iteration and, next generation in this AI journey that we've all been on is always, I feel like the conversation keeps coming back over and over again to zero trust.
yeah, and I think along those lines, when we look at this agentic mesh, that we're going to have to establish the identities of all of these agents that are doing things in a way differently than we do now. And a bit of it, we're just going to have a number of claims made to their authenticity, like how are they signed? What's the trail of evidence? And then what have they been doing that lately for us that gives us that feeling of trust in them? Like what have you done for me lately that's especially trustworthy?
Right.
So I think
Prove
that
yourself, agents.
yeah, and I think that this sort of understanding of the behavior of these systems in order to understand, is it well aligned with my goals? It's kind of the real key to their identity too, and a lot of these security concerns.
Yeah, and I think probably treating those agents like we treat any other identity, like even looking at some kind of, I don't know, like agent security posture management, or really being able to narrow in on, configuration, behavior, activity. To your point, like what have you done for me lately? Are you behaving as you should be behaving? Are there anomalies? Or are you veering off your typical behavior path? I think again, looking at those existing best practices as well, and then applying them to the agent. Um, is definitely going to be like kind of the table stakes approach going forward. And then to your point, there's kind of some special provisions or special things that we need to be thinking of as well.
Yeah, segmentation, don't let your agent escape its environment and copy itself somewhere else.
Right. On that note, as we're kind of wrapping up here, Josiah, any kind of last thoughts, last considerations that folks should be thinking of? Anything that you're seeing that's been particularly cool in the broader industry before we sign off here?
I think that agents and agentic AI is really the promise of AI. So I think
Yeah.
that these are exciting times. I do see a lot of vulnerabilities in the way people are adopting MCP right now, and it's going to lead to some loss. But I think the upside of the capabilities that it will give us, across industries is enormous. And I think that it doesn't take us out of the picture as the people who need to solve problems. We just
Right.
have much better tools. We're not digging with our hands anymore. Um, and I think that that's it's a great place to be in the technology landscape.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree more. And I think that certainly at the enterprise level, a lot of organizations, I think what's really going to set enterprise apart is those who recognize that, right? So, what is this kind of added, level that we're going to be getting out of this? And I think to your point, like the opportunity is absolutely huge.
Yep, I did have an interesting conversation along these lines with a technology company that's building agents really to determine how much they can get out of them.
Hmm.
And they were talking about governance for data and for um, your large language models for your AI systems, and what that means in terms of reskilling. So if for
Yeah.
some reason all of a sudden I can't use the LLM I was using before because it's not allowed in my jurisdiction, then maybe my agents that have been powered by it will need to be reskilled with another LLM. And similarly, if I don't have the actual data, if I don't own it for training,
Hmm.
these agents for the tasks that I need, like what do I need to do in order to maintain the ability to keep those skills in house? Which is
Right.
interesting that we're we have issues with losing our virtual workforce as well through changes in technology. It could be end of
Yeah.
life of some technology or changes in regulation, or changes in security. If somebody affects the integrity of one of those things, then I have to reskill my workforce, which is different and a sort of type of risks than risks we've normally considered. So it is interesting to see what we might uh, lose as part of the workforce, but I think we're
Hmm.
also going to have a lot more roles that are interacting with AI in order
Hmm.
to do more things faster. And
Right.
it might be that you have your AI psychologist who can coerce its behavior back to its norm, or that you have your AI team builder who's good at uh, getting different types of agents to do well together in orchestration.
Right.
I mean,
AI,
there,
HR. Yeah.
or just human manager of the AI
Yeah.
systems. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe just quick lightning round actually. Question on where, like, what industries do you see as kind of leading in this and possibly like benefiting the most? Like, for example, I've been spending a lot of time on the road right now speaking with a few different banking and financial organizations, and they seem to be among the industries and among the teams who are investing, and of course they have the resources, but investing like really heavily in this space. And of course they've got some of the most sensitive information that really matters to their consumers. So to me, like, this is kind of the industry that's taken this really seriously. But from your perspective, who's kind of like setting the use cases right now that we're all going to be looking to as like case studies as we start to build out our own stuff?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I think clearly the technology community itself is like, hey, we can automate all the things,
Yeah.
but for what? Um, I do see finance, banking as a clear example. I think healthcare too. There's a great
Mhm.
deal of momentum, and they also have very
Yeah.
special data. And I do think that industries that have a lot of experience with data governance actually
Yeah.
have a leg up in AI
Right.
adoption. Besides that, I think that we're going to see it coming in agriculture and manufacturing in a way that we haven't before. And I think it will probably be easier to transform agriculture than manufacturing in a number of ways. But I do think that we're going to see this pervasively, through industries over time. Maybe even hospitality will have a great deal of automated workforce. But I
Right.
do think that right now, like where there are controls around data already, I think it's actually easier for people to adopt AI safely because they already have a bunch of rules around what not to do with their data.
Yeah, here we go. GRC really influencing minimizing your tech debt. You didn't even know you were doing it if you were doing it well. So that's great. Hey, Josiah, thank you so much once again. This is a really cool conversation. I think this is really going to help people wrap their arms around new protocols, what this means for them, what the risks are from the security perspective. So super appreciate you coming on. For everyone else, next time on Trend Talks AI, we're finally going to get to this social engineering development, what's been going on over the last year, last 12 months. We pushed it a couple times because we had some cool topics come up that I want to tackle instead. But sure enough, this episode coming next time, Trend Talks AI. Thank you again so much for joining us. That's all for now.
Thanks, Shannon. Have a
Bye.
good one.